Hi everybody, you're listening to the Khandaan podcast by the You Podcast team, a bi-weekly podcast revisiting the movies of Amir Khan, Salman Khan and Shah Rukh Khan.
Every show we pick a random year from 3 decades of collectively 300 films the Khans have done and let our listeners vote which movie we should talk about. So it's entirely up to you.
Pick a team, make a vote, take us down nostalgia lane, punish us, or make us reassess a movie we dismissed.
We love the Khans, most of us, sometimes. And we would love for you all to be part of our Khandaan, because when it comes to the Khans in Bollywood, nothing else really matters.
I have this feeling that people are just like in love with like the image of actors more and more, and they don't really even bother watching their movies at all.
Yeah. Are we having this conversation again so you can record it?
I'm already recording it, so I am recapping what I was saying. Indeed, you have seen through my ploys, Amrita.
I was like, didn't we say this already?
In exactly the same words.
Maybe 8 more take.
So am I repeating? Are we repeating ourselves?
Everybody repeat themselves.
Okay, fine.
Okay, what are your thoughts?
So, yes, I mean, I think, like I said earlier, I think most of these Stan accounts are kind of managed by younger fans and stuff. And I think, like Asim alluded to, is the fact that they're kind of more in love with their image, and some of them may be working out, and it's kind of more about the look. I mean, I think that's just the way the world's evolved. Like, it's very little to do with talent and just entirely on looks and image. I mean, that's my take.
I think, like, for me, it's been a tough few weeks. Like, all of these celebrity weddings, to be honest.
Yeah, I noticed you're very quiet, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if you muted me around that time.
No, I didn't. Cause the thing is, I don't like spreading negativity, so I don't want to, criticize shit and stuff like that. But I honestly don't care. I don't care if these guys are married or, the photos or how pretty it looks and all that. I just do not care. So, yeah. But it's overwhelming. And it's because there were like 4 of them or 3 of them. How many marriages were there? 4, right? If you add the Sonam Kapoor one too.
So, yeah, Anushka, right?
Yeah, Anushka, Sonam,
Deepika, and Priyanka.
Yeah, so 4, right?
Yeah.
And wow, everybody got married.
Yeah. And like, especially these last 3, they were like one after the other, and it just like, it broke me. I was like crying in the corner. If I don't see another lenga for like 6 months, I'll be fine, man.
Did you read one of those tweets? They have those memes and stuff, and I think someone posted this. The year is 2030. And Priyanka's probably going to like her son's graduation, and Deepika's having a 20,000 reception or something like that. It was hilarious, but it was actually kind of true.
I think Priyanka has another one coming up on the 20th.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
What's left?
Mumbai reception.
Okay.
Which is needed though, right? Like because I felt like I made this joke about Priyanka's crew being super lame. Which I stand by. I still think her crew is super lame. So I feel there need to be like more Bollywood people. I think it's been very like empty. Like there was nobody really there at her wedding, right? But I guess that's the case for every Bollywood wedding. I don't know how it works. So they do like a family wedding where there's like only their nearest and dearest, I guess. And then they have the reception where they invite everybody, right? That's how it works?
Usually, yeah. I think so.
Yeah, I think.
I think she doesn't have. I think with the whole Bollywood thing, she doesn't have that much goodwill left with her Bollywood peers. So.
Yeah.
I think the Aishwarya Abhishek Bachchan wedding sort of like tilted people into thinking like these people must invite everybody to their wedding as well. And I think they forget that for the Bachchans, it was very different because they're married into the industry. So even if they just invited their family, like half their family is the industry. Like they're married into the Kapoors, like Shweta Bachchan is married to a grandson of Raj Kapoor. Like they have those industry links. And Amitabh Bachchan is like very different from like, Anushka Sharma's dad or like Deepika Padukone's dad or Priyanka Chopra's mom. So like when Amitabh Bachchan's son gets married, it's a very different thing. So I think that's why they invited quite a number of industry people to the actual wedding itself. And then that became a controversy. And I think after that, all the weddings, people were just like, oh, this is what happens if you try to limit the guest list at an industry wedding. So we'll just be safe and invite everybody to the reception and then keep the ceremony low key. And that way nobody gets offended. Because Shatrughan Sinha had this big thing, like, and like Shah Rukh wasn't invited. And it was like this huge deal, like who was invited, who was not invited to the Ash Abhi wedding. It was just ridiculous. Like people are entitled to call whoever they want to their wedding. So I think that's the fix since then.
Again, Amrita, you might be able to shed some more light on this. There was a lot of uproar on Twitter regarding, will Katrina Kaif show up at Deepika's reception or not? And then she showed up, and then everybody was like, she's proven everybody else wrong. So what was that all about?
Oh, because the whole thing has been like, like ever since Katrina and Ranbir got together.
Ah, okay. I get that connection now.
Yeah.
Did you not get that connection?
No, I don't really pay attention to all this. Really.
Yeah.
Just like Asim, like I'm not totally invested in all of that.
I think what happened was, on Coffee with Karan, like the literal focus and the onus has been around, thank God she came so Karan can move on in his Coffee with Karan topics and talk about something else, which was actually true, because I think at least 20 minutes of the show is devoted to just Katrina and Deepika and the awkwardness between Alia and Ranbir.
The exes of Ranbir.
Yeah.
I just want somebody to like smack Tejo across the face the next time he like brings it up, because like that little elf like engineered the entire thing between Ranbir and Alia, and then he has the gall to like sit there and be like, हाँ so बहनजी बताइए आपको कैसा लग रहा है, to like Katrina and Deepika and everything, and they're all just like, you're so tacky.
I think there was this video which they filmed Khandaan outside the airport, and she kind of made a dig about it, and the fact that like the industry is waking up to this whole Me Too thing, and like the whole abuse and all of that stuff, and all Karan Johar's, he's got a platform, and all he's talking about is these 5 people and who slept with who, which is kind of true, because he's got like a really big platform, and he's not talking about relevant topics, but really flippant, kind of revolving around the same people, his favorite people. And it's a fair point, because he has got a voice, and I think it needs to be raised for something more important.
See, this is why like Kangana is seriously problematic, but every time she says something, I'm just like, oh, damn it. Like, you're just reeling me back in. I can't escape.
Yeah, I think that video was really funny because it went viral, because she kind of said, that show is just about 5 people and who's sleeping with whom, and not kind of talking about, Me Too and stuff. I'll share that video, actually. It's really good.
I mean, she's totally valid.
Yeah.
So, Jayman, you've been you're a newly appointed member of the Katrina Kaif fan club, right?
Oh God, I knew you were going to bring this up.
I need to get this on record first of all, right?
I was just like, I was dreading you bringing this up, and I was gutted. Someone tweeted that, and I was just like, why did you have to say that? I wouldn't say I'm a fan, Asim, but I like her.
Yeah, you'll get there, man. You'll get there.
Yeah, I like her. Like in my old age, I've become more about kind of intelligence and what wise things someone said. And I think the past few interviews I've seen of hers, and I was just like, wow, she's actually really intelligent. And like I said, I went to see Thugs of Hindustan. Believe it or not, I thought I'd never say this. It was because of her.
Yeah.
There was nothing else that interested me about the film.
Yeah.
That's another controversial subject for you as well. But we won't go there.
Yeah, I don't even know how to react, honestly. I'm like flabbergasted. I'm speechless. I didn't know it was going to go this well.
For me, like it was like, it's like Jay said, like she gave that interview to GQ in like that last year of her relationship with Ranbir, where she was just so honest. And she was just so sorted in her head, and she was just so so vulnerable in everything that she was saying. And I was just like, oh, I really like you. You can't act, but I really like you, you know?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I just think, it's become a lot about relatability these days, right? And I just think even, I didn't see the GQ interview, but when I saw her on Coffee with Karan, the few things she said about not placing your value in someone else and kind of seeking your validation from elsewhere, I was just like, wow, you're really intelligent. And she's a great dancer. And I think the impression I get is that, like you said, she can't act for nuts. But, she's quite hardworking because it takes a lot to kind of not be able to speak the language and kind of get to where you are, wherever she is, because she's quite higher up the food chain.
Yeah.
I think she probably had the best appearance on Coffee with Karan of this season, at least.
Yes,
she kind of presented her the best. She was fun, and I think her Instagram also helped a lot. It really
massively.
A lot of people figured out that there's more behind her than just being pretty and all that kind of thing. And I think she is good as a star. What she also does really well is pick the right roles. She's not doing any Radhika Apte kind of roles, or So in the movie she's doing, Welcome and whatever else she's doing, she has the skills for that. And I've been a fan for a while. I like her since Ajab Prem Ki Kahani, because that was kind of the first comedic role she had. And I thought she was great in it. So I'm glad people are finally seeing the light. And I think just kind of building up on. I think also you can't hate on somebody. I think we can all agree that Ranbir Kapoor is pretty much a douchebag, right? He doesn't treat women right. I think that's kind of a consensus, right? So I think she's had a few of these bad relationships. So you can't you kind of feel bad for her in a way, right? You can't I don't get people that hate her.
And I think, like you said, I think you alluded to a key point there. Her Instagram account, Asim, was what massively changed it for me, because her posts are quite self-deprecating. She can take the piss out of herself, and I quite like that. I just think that's a very rare quality when people kind of just take, and the one-liners and some of the posts are just like, wow, that was really clever, that was really witty. So you're right, that's kind of changed it for me massively.
Yeah. Amrita, you've been a bit on a break, right, for the last few weeks?
A bit.
Yeah, and people were clamoring for your return.
Oh.
So, how did you feel the whole wedding thing? You kind of missed the whole thing, or did you kind of pick it up from a distance, or because I don't actually know your feelings about the whole celebrity.
Sonam's wedding was definitely the wedding of the year, in my opinion, because it was it played out really on social media. It was a bunch of people who knew how to shoot the videos and knew what videos to post, and they were all having a ball. Everybody was having a ball, from Shah Rukh and Salman singing to Sonam's mom to Arjun and Ranveer doing Instagram live or whatever, and people were just having a party, and they were showing that aspect of it, and that was really fun. It kind of felt like Hamare Yaar Ki Shaadi sort of a thing, and it felt like we were the fans were a part of the process, which is what Jay was saying about this being a relatability era in which we sort of judge things on how well we relate to it or not. I think Sonam's wedding was definitely the celebrity event of the year for me, because it was also very focused on Sonam and her family, and we didn't really have to worry about who she was marrying. So that really worked out for me.
Who did she marry, actually? I don't even know. I know she got married. I don't know who she got married to.
His name is Anand Ahuja. And I think they run some sort of garment business that uses a lot of sweatshops. It's the last thing that I heard about who she's married to. But she now lives in London with her husband. So you have her for a neighbor.
Oh, good.
So that was one aspect. But in terms of the clothes and all the styling and everything, I really liked the Deepika Ranveer Wedding, I thought like it was like super. It's super beautiful. Like the photos, how happy they were, like how happy their families were. The outfits were OTT in just the way that I like it. And it was beautiful. And it was like two people getting married and clearly happy to be getting married. And it was lovely. And I really enjoyed that. PC's wedding was drama from like beginning to end. It was drama. It was like, who is she marrying? Why is she marrying him? What is going on? And then just as everybody was like sharpening their knives and like getting into it and being like, ha ha ha, now we roast PC. Then that article came out from The Cut of all places.
Yeah.
And suddenly everybody was like, how dare you say that about PC? Like, nobody says that about
It's kind of like, hum keh sakte, tum nahi keh sakte.
Yeah.
Tumne kaise keh diya?
Yeah.
How dare you say that?
Did everyone actually read the original article? Because I think before the hoo-ha started, I actually read it in the morning before the edited version, and they kind of stripped it off. So I read the full, and I was shocked. This was before I read anything on Zoe, and I was like, wow, this is really damning.
Yeah.
So I think the article came out like in the evening, US time. So I was reading it like in the morning, India time. And like the last thing she said before she went off to bed was like, she made some sort of like, I don't know, so some sort of like sniggering joke about like PC's fans being like Calvin Harris's fans, because I guess they also gave her like a hard time. Yes. And I was like, girl, you have no idea, because this story is going to spread like fire through Bolly Twitter. And when you wake up in the morning, your whole life is going to be on fire.
But I think, Amrita, I'm a PC fan, right? And I think I don't make any bones about it. I think it wasn't so much about the fact that the article was about Priyanka Chopra. I just think it could have been it was just really shockingly damning. I was just like, wow, you're supposed to be a professional writer, and you made no bones about the fact that you're literally hating on someone because they've got a luxury theater they've never used. Like, it's such a ridiculous reason to base a whole article on, like the whole comment about, did she ask Nick if he wants to ride a horse? And I'm like, come on. That's like a ridiculous comment.
She's an American, right? She's grown up on MTV Cribs culture, where people literally flaunt their pads and, their homes with home theaters and home cinemas and all that. So that's part of the celebrity culture, but it's like all of a sudden it's become unacceptable because Priyanka Chopra is doing it.
Yeah, the thrust of the article was definitely that, like here she comes and she's taking one of our good whites away from us.
Yeah, and I think to that point, sorry to interrupt Amrita, I think, the whole thing is, I think it kind of brought something back which was quite close to home. So I don't remember if you remember when Harry got married to Meghan Markle. If you read the comments on Daily Mail, they were unbelievably racist. And I think when this article about The Cut got published in Daily Mail, it was the same people that came to comment saying, oh, she's Meghan's BFF, so what do you expect, blah, blah, blah. So there was no real basis. It was just the fact that she's, these women had kind of won their childhood crushes or whatever it was. It was just an aspect of bitterness. And I think the important thing was it focused massively on women of color. And I think in this day and age, you just, given the way the whole women empowerment thing and everything's moving, you just can't say things like that. And coming from The Cut, it was just like, wow, you're such a reputable, quote unquote, a publication. How can you say this about a woman of color?
And I think what I was particularly taken in, Asim, I'm aware that I'm just like interrupting you all the time.
No. I just wanted to kind of give some context that like the title of the article was called "Is Priyanka Chopra and Nick Jonas's Love for Real?" And it was written by Mariah Smith, who's actually an African American writer, which is also kind of interesting if we start talking about racial dynamics. But yeah, go ahead.
And she, I just want to point out, she made her bones writing recaps of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And she's a huge Kardashian fan, which is like another thing of like, are you for real? But then, like a lot of people have mentioned, like, like it's not just her who's at fault. It's also a failure of of our editors who, because this doesn't get published by itself. It's not like she writes something and then she gets to post it. It's like a whole process that needs to be followed. So there's like a bunch of people that looked at that thing and were like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good thing, that you should publish it. But going back to your point, Jay, like, about what this means for like women of color, like I was making this point to Sunny as well, like Sunny Singh, who was here a couple of episodes ago, and she was saying the same thing, and I agreed with her in that as a woman of, like, I wasn't connecting to this article so much as a PC fan. I admire her hustle, but I wouldn't describe myself as a PC fan. But to me, that whole thing about the article sort of focusing on Priyanka's finances and how she chooses to spend her money and her taste for the high life.
Yeah.
That was what really triggered me and like got me like really invested in this whole thing, because as a single brown woman who earns her own money and who has what various people like busybodies have said is like an expensive lifestyle, because I don't like diamonds and like home theater systems or home theater rooms like PC, but I do like to travel. I like food. I like to pamper myself. Like I spend my money in like very specific ways that I want to. But like, काम कौन करता है? मैं करती हूँ.
Yeah, exactly.
Tax कौन pay करता है? I pay the taxes. Like मेरे बाप का नहीं जाता तो फिर तुम्हारे बाप का क्या जाएगा?
Exactly.
What is it to you?
And I think what I found was I read this and I think I agreed with it, was the fact that they kind of literally make Nick Jonas to be some puppy, like a 12-year-old puppy who she kind of manipulated. He's a 26-year-old man, and I'm going to say something controversial, right? Even if the marriage is a sham, he's equally going to benefit from it as she is. So
absolutely.
Like I think the fact to kind of literally put the onus on Priyanka Chopra when Nick Jonas is as an equal participant in it. And from any of the photos, it didn't seem like he was being dragged down the aisle. Do you know what I mean? It didn't seem like that at all. And whatever benefit she got, he's getting it too.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the article that she wrote, like the first 3 or 4 paragraphs are just about Nick Jonas, like how he was a pop star and he's a singer and this and that. And then immediately she switches over to this idea of Priyanka being a global scam artist, which I don't even know what it means. Is it like, is it like Thomas Crown? She's going from bank to bank hustling like, paintings or something like that. But there's such a severe misunderstanding of the power dynamics of these couples and especially the popularity of Priyanka Chopra. Which it just seems like total blindness to me more than anything.
Exactly.
But what I also like, okay, again, like I'm not a Priyanka Chopra fan at all. But like Hansel towards Sting, I respect the hustle. I respect the music she makes. I don't listen to it, but I respect it. But it also just kind of made me think about the state of publishing as a whole. That there's media outlets that are not making any revenue. They're not paying out their contributors. They don't have any staff. They don't have any editors. They're using freelancers that usually don't have that much experience. And it was also just funny to see that in this competitive landscape that how this article actually got even published on The Cut. Like I don't understand how they said this is fine. And I think they are based in New York, I imagine.
Yes.
And I think I was looking at the timestamp. It took them 9 minutes after office hours to take the article down. 9 minutes. And they were like, okay, this is not going the way it should be going. But why did they even publish it? Like, I don't get how this went through their journalistic practices.
I think you know what it is, Asim. I think the way journalism has evolved, right? I think integrity is a very, very small thing. It's just the way the digital journalism space is moving, because I kind of work in it full time, right? It's just the way it's moving. So whatever's trending, if you kind of write something controversial about it, it's going to get some kind of viewership or appreciation or clickbait, everything's about clickbait these days, right? So I think on the back of the Cut article, there were several other damning articles about the fact that, she wore a sindoor and stuff like that when she was talking about feminism. And I read that and I'm just like, are you for real? This is ridiculous, because just because she's trending, she showed up at a Bumble event talking about like feminism, wearing a sindoor. She goes so much for feminism, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Amrita. Like, I always thought feminism was about choice. So it's her choice. So what's that got to do with feminism? I don't think Nick Jonas insisted that she wears sindoor and stuff like that. So I think what it is it's just whatever's trending at the time. It's always about let's write something controversial, get the clickbait, get the traffic that our site deserves, so we can at the end of the year meet our KPIs. That's literally what it's about. Yeah. And I think in this case, like you said, the article didn't quite go the way they'd hoped, because if you notice, what they did was to kind of keep encouraging the clickbait. They still kept the article up, so it didn't go to a 404 error. So when you click on it, they were still generated clicks for them. Yeah. Even though the page was blank, it still generated clicks for them. So that's, I think, it's just a landscape we live in. I just think journalistic integrity just has very little value these days.
Well, talking of that, like, Mariah Smith issued an apology on her Twitter with an image, right? But she's not gone and deleted her tweets that are basically retweets of other people praising the article.
No, she did.
I think, she did.
She did. She's gone through her. Yeah, she has.
Yeah, now she has. No, there's like, I think it's like what Jay said is like completely valid. And I think it's also worth pointing out, like, they woke up to Desi Twitter, which is like the worst Twitter, like in many ways. It was immediately like, it got racist really fast. Like people people were calling her a monkey, like all kinds of like nasty shit. And also what happened was like, so New York Magazine that publishes The Cut has like a very specific readership. Like their core base is like very New York focused, obviously. And a whole bunch of the New York editors, like editors in New York City, started calling them out for publishing that article and basically allowing Mariah to set fire to her own career, because this is going to follow her for a lifetime. Like, it's not going to go away.
Bollywood fans hold a grudge.
Well, yeah, but also the internet lives forever. And like, this article was so bad. Like, it was so racist. It was so xenophobic. It was so misogynist and sexist. Like, even the Americans were, and like, even the Americans were just like, what the f***? Like, it wasn't just Desis for once who were just like, wow, like, what the f***? But it was literally everybody. And the editors basically got dragged over the coals for it. And that's when, and you'll notice, like, the editorial board has not apologized at all. Like, as of today, we're recording on a Sunday, and it's been, 2 days or 3 days since it came out. And nobody from the magazine has actually said anything other than Mariah.
No, there's actually been an apology too from The Cut.
Yeah, there has been.
Has it been like a long apology?
No, it was just on social media.
It was a paragraph.
Yeah. There was. They said that it is our fault and we have Mariah's back, but it just seems a very perfunctory social media thing. It doesn't seem like really heartfelt. I mean, we wouldn't be in this situation if they really had her back. So they have like done something on social media, but there's not been really any consequences. The consequences will be carried by Mariah. And I have to say, like, it went so quickly. Like, everything went so quickly within 2-3 days. Because I wanted to talk about it when it went out, and because I really wanted to see what Jay was going to say, because I read it slightly earlier, like 5 or 10 minutes, and I was like, I just want to see what Jay said. And I thought Jay was actually quite calm. I was like, I was hoping for more drama, but I was trying to save it, and I asked Sujoy, and Sujoy couldn't even find it on the archives. And then I did find it later on, but it's already the edited version. So it's not even the original version. The original version can't even be found in Internet Archives at the moment. And then now, if you go to the website, it's just been deleted with a small apology about not meeting journalistic standards, which I don't even know what it means. So I think the brunt is going to be carried by the writer, but I do feel bad how quickly things turned racist. Like, really horrible, really terrible. So, Yeah, it was a tough one, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, like, because it is hate bait or hate clicks that generates it, but then there's also this whole factory about calling out the hate bait clicks, so you get articles on the article, and so it's just like a never-ending cycle that kind of goes on and on and on. So yeah, I don't know how I do feel bad about the writer, but then again, she did kind of write a very shitty article. So
I think what happened was, I think what you must remember is, if you look at kind of her previous tweets before the article was published, she has slagged off Priyanka before.
Oh yeah, but so, yeah, I wanted to talk about that too. There is a idea that PC doesn't make I've seen a lot of women be not fans of PC because of the things she said and done, especially anti-black comments. So there is this kind of thing that I've kind of picked up upon. I don't know, Jay, you're a fan, so I don't know, have you seen that? Have you noticed it or not really?
What were the anti-black comments?
No, they weren't anti. Okay, here's what happened. There's a bunch of different things, and it just gets conflated in the way of the internet. So what happened was PC arrived in the States, and then she wanted to reinvent herself as this super American thing. And if you notice her first round of interviews, whether she was on Colbert or Ellen or whatever, it was just all about how much she loved Tupac and how she was in Queens and how she was totally down with it and blah blah blah, and she was trying to build up this whole thing. But then she also wanted to be on the side of of being woke. So she was talking about racism, and a lot of people were writing about that. To be fair to PC, they were trying to cast her as this sort of brown queen who came in, and she was the first South Asian woman who has her own show and everything, and all of those things were valid. But the thing is, when you're Indian and when you're Indian American, those are two completely different, separate experiences, and they don't always translate well to each other. It's I'm Indian, my cousins are Indian American, we do have things in common, but our lives are very different. And that is something that I had to learn as an Indian woman who was living in the United States. And for a lot of people in India and in the United States, they don't really get that. They think that, well, I feel this way, so you must also feel this way. And that doesn't always translate. So when PC came in, she was talking about being bullied for being brown and everything. And she would talk about this girl that she met in high school who used to tell her things go back to India, you smell like curry, all that kind of stuff. And she always described this girl as being black, and how this girl would be racist towards her, and how hurtful it was because they were both women of color and she was getting bullied by this girl. And then it turned out that girl was actually white. And PC either misremembered her as, maybe she was light skinned, I don't know. Maybe she just misremembered her as being black, or I don't know what was happening with that. But yeah, basically that woman was white. So there was that. And then the next thing that happened was a whole bunch of anti-PC Bollywood users flooded the internet, and they would go, and they still do it. They just spam celebrity boards or forums and talk about how awful PC is. And one of the things that they always put up is the fact that she acted in fashion, and she has that hair, she hits rock bottom, and rock bottom comes at the penis of a black man. Yeah. So that also is sort of used as a example of how
and the Mary Kom casting. That's one I've also seen. Yeah. Bollywood complaints come up that she's she kind of did the makeup and took on that role for a movie that actually wasn't even that good at the end of it.
I would give PC more grief for Mary Kom than I would for fashion, because she actually produced Mary Kom, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and fashion, I think it's all Madhur Bhandarkar's fault, but visually the optics of that meme or that GIF are terrible for PC. When you look at it, it just looks so bad, and especially when it gets spread out then to North America, where a lot of people haven't even seen the movie. It looks terrible. And then on the end, I think what you were saying, Amrita, she was trying out different pitches and trying to figure out where she would fit in in Hollywood at the start. Like she started as a singer, then she was also doing movies, and then I don't know what she's exactly going for now at the moment. It seems to be like kind of a Kim Kardashian light kind of celebrity kind of thing. I think she's there's definitely a contingent that's hugely like not a Priyanka Chopra fan for sure. So yeah, maybe that's also some sort of context about the writer of that article of The Cut. Maybe I don't know. I'm just speculating.
But there's also seems to be a lot of glee in reply to that article tweeted by Mariah. So there's lots of people saying, "Oh, Mariah called her out, and she put words in the most articulate way on why Priyanka is the way she is and why we hate her."
Yeah.
I mean, those were like 10 Americans and then about 500 anti-PC daily reports.
Yeah.
You know?
But
I did actually laugh when The Cut published their apology. They said, "Oh, we received a couple of complaints," and you're just like, I'm pretty sure it was more than a couple. It was more in the thousands.
But let's for like, okay, I'm a guy, so guys have this tendency to do this. But like, if we see it as like devil's advocate, was there any truth to what she said, Mariah? Like, take away the global scam artist. I mean, I've always felt personally that there is a very an artificiality to Priyanka, even in her acting, in her performance. And I always think about my review back in the day of Agnipath, where Agnipath seems like a movie that's made and then somebody photoshopped Priyanka in it. Like, it doesn't seem to be part of the movie, but she seems like she's superimposed on it. So I've always felt there is this kind of fakeness to Priyanka. And I think even there was a photo of her laughing during her wedding and holding a glass, and a lot of people were like tweeting that, how fake is, nobody laughs like this. So do you feel there was any truth to what Mariah, the point she was trying to make, not the words itself, but the point that this might just be a celebrity wedding just for clicks, just kind of like two brands getting together, and it was all kind of just well planned out to, generate more money. And again, if she is kind of following the steps of the Kim Kardashian game plan, that's definitely something Kim Kardashian did. And I think also with Priyanka, there was a lot of complaints also from photographers that she'd sold her pictures to People magazine and made it an event, and she didn't allow local photographers in. Again, that kind of added to that kind of anti-PC thing. So I just want to ask Jay first, because you're the biggest fan. Do you think there's any truth in it, or does your fandom just not allow any of those arguments?
I mean, my fandom is not me, right? I am quite objective as a person, obviously, because I'm older. So I think to your point, I see it, I'll play devil's advocate, like you said. I think I see the point that Mariah originally was trying to make. Because, I think, if you kind of notice all the events and stuff, there was that MP logo and stuff like that, which is where the whole brand thing and the whole direction, which is kind of where they want to go. But I kind of see the point that she was trying to get across. But Sim, I'd like to take you to my previous point about the fact that it wasn't a one-sided thing. Nick Jonas was as equal a participant in this as she is. So
definitely, I agree with that. I agree with that. But I also say that I think PC has a track record of doing these things. And I
think what's happened is, since going stateside, maybe I would argue that her performances potentially may have suffered in authenticity. I think the last good performance probably was by Jira Mastani, which is the last substantial thing I think she did. I think she was the best thing about that film, because
I really liked her in Dil Dhadakne.
Yes, and there was genuine heart in those films, but I think you're right. Maybe I would disagree that there's a fakeness, or there has been a fakeness in the past, but maybe now, to kind of maybe win over a different audience, yes, the way she kind of positions herself might be more calculated. I wouldn't use the word fake, because I just feel like, I think everyone kind of has to modify their image to kind of fit in a different market. She's in a different market, so she obviously is observing what's working. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's fake. I just say it's a carefully crafted PR strategy, which is two different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How was that for a diplomatic
That was
answer?
very diplomatic, man. That was very... I'm about to hit my UN gavel here. Anything else, Amrita, you want to say about this article thing?
No, I think there is like an article that needs to be written about how celebrities leverage their influencer status into with their personal brand, right? My thesis last year was actually on celebrity authenticity and like how it is performed in public on social media. So I have a lot of thoughts about this kind of stuff. But in the interest of not being a bore, I will just say that whatever that article should be, this was not it.
Yeah.
Like, this is not like coming here, like the way she put it across, you know, like criticizing the way that she spends the money, trying to play into this whole white victimhood nonsense, saying that Priyanka's too old, like calling her a global scam artist, like the whole thing. Like, this was not the article that this subject deserves, because there is an article that needs to be written about it. There are several articles that you could write about it. And this is also a very old school type of publicity campaign, in my opinion. Like, this used to be how celebrity weddings used to be managed 10 years ago, you know, like from Angelina and Brad selling their photos of their kids to People magazine, like all that kind of stuff. Like, everything that Priyanka did is old school. Like, she had the People spread, the Hello spread, the Vogue come out. Like, she had all of it done. So it's very, the only thing is that, you know, like Priyanka is sort of trying to establish herself as the A-list, but a lot of the secondary things that Priyanka did, like the sponsorships and everything, those have kind of B-list or even C-list. So it's a sort of, I think she was trying to do like a modern take on a very old PR strategy, and it sort of backfired in many ways, and that in that we're 10 years older and we know how this game is being played now, and we are all like a lot more fluent in this sort of language, and we understand how influencing works. So we were able to call it out a lot more easier than
I think also like somewhere, I think if she was more successful in the States, it would have mattered less, I guess. And I mean, again, I don't want to like downplay anything she's doing or anything like that, but you know, a lot of things haven't worked her way. You know, like the singing career never took off. The album never dropped, right? There were just 2 singles. That's it.
Yeah.
Right. And there was this idea about she was going to be working with producers. She had Will.i.am and Pitbull, that there was going to be an actual album. And she like, oh, singing is my passion. I remember that. It never really happened. And then, you know, Quantico was terrible. Like, as a show, it was just terrible. And it's now cancelled after 3 seasons. Baywatch didn't work at all. Bombed completely. Cowboy, Ninja, Assassin, Viking, Lunatic, Spaceship got stalled. I don't know if that's even going on. So I think success kind of, you know, if you are successful, you can be bloody Kanye West and make the most horrible things and these shoes are still selling, you know. But yeah, I think there's something also with, it's just not as working as well as the strategy should have worked. And I think a lot of it is true that her game plan is like 10 years too old, unfortunately.
I think what it is the same, you know, when you're kind of jostling between 2 industries, it's never really going to work out, right? So I think you have to kind of make up your mind as to which direction you're going to go in, because she had shooting commitments both sides, and I just think you can't really focus on one career path if you want it to work out. I think that's kind of what I would say to that.
Yeah, but I don't think she would have come back, honestly, if everything had taken off. You know, I don't think there would have been the whole Bharat thing. I don't know what she's doing now. The Sky is Pink or something like that. Maybe she could have done that if it's shot like, you know, outside. But I don't think she would have ever done Bharat if, you know, Baywatch was a huge hit, you know, something like that. I think she wanted to get out. But yeah, I don't know. Shall we move on? Because we're talking about this for a while. I wanted to talk next about Simmba a little bit. Or should we do Kedarnath first? What's best?
Well, I haven't seen Kedarnath, and Jay is probably the only one who's seen Kedarnath amongst us. So,
I think one topic kind of nicely leads into the other, doesn't it? The same.
Which one?
Khandaan leads into Simmba because both have a common factor in Sara Ali Khan. So,
let's do that then.
यात्री यहाँ आते हैं तीर्थ पे अपने भगवान से मिलने और उनकी सुविधा हमारा धर्म है। प्रस्ताव है कि रामबाड़ा में 2 स्टार होटल बनेगा।
हर साल हम उतने ही यात्री को बुलाएं जितने का इंतजाम कर सकते हैं। ना वादी पे बोझ आएगा ना लोगों पे।
तुम कहाँ से आ गए हमारे बीच?
हम तो हमेशा से यहाँ हैं। पुश्तें हमारी सेवा करती रही हैं। श्रद्धा में हम उनके शामिल हुए, कंधों पे बिठा के तीर्थ कराया है। पर ये बात हमारी आपकी नहीं है, ये पूरे केदारनाथ की बात है।
Well, Jay, you saw it. I think you've already posted your review on BollyBrit, which I'm kind of still waiting to read because I wanted to watch the movie first. But now I think I'll just read the review. You know, you're the only reviewer I read things that I haven't seen. So I'll read your recap on Coffee with Karan without seeing the episode, and I'll read your reviews without watching the movie. So I will watch that. Can you give your quick thoughts without spoilers too much on Kedarnath, which was this week's movie?
Sure. So I think, I went into the film with virtually zero expectations, right? And I think even when the trailer came out, I'm not kind of one for, I kind of understand this whole nepotism thing, which is a whole different topic in itself. So I just kind of felt like it was just a carefully crafted PR strategy for Sara Ali Khan. So obviously, I saw her interviews, and I think the more I saw of her, I was keen to see the film. And even when I went to see the film, I didn't have that many expectations. I won't lie. I didn't kind of know what to expect. But I enjoyed it. I think I really enjoyed it. I think it was it had a very old school kind of romance charm to it. And I just think the fact that they wrapped everything up in 2 hours was the highlight for me, because they kind of explore some topics which they probably didn't flesh out very well. But I think as a film, as a whole, I've seen worse. It was engaging. It wasn't boring. It kind of captured the beauty of Kedarnath very well. I think it's a beautiful place. And I didn't actually even know about the beauty, or to be honest, even that much about the floods that happened in 2013 until after I saw the film. And I quite enjoyed it. I think the whole Muslim boy, Hindu girl topic's been flogged to death. I think our filmmakers have used it way too much, so they could have kind of jigged that a little bit. But I think as a film and as a love story, even though it could have been slightly better, I think it worked. I think it was a good film. It's watchable. It's not boring. It's very well shot. And obviously the highlight was Sara Ali Khan. So I think for once, and I said this in my review, I think the byproduct of nepotism, for once, the hype surrounding it was justified. It was valid. She was very good. I think Sushant is Sushant. I haven't seen him in that much. I think the last film I saw of his was Should There See Romance, which I enjoyed. But he kind of brought this nice brooding intensity to the part. But, the film was Sara Ali Khan's film, and she was very good in it. I think she kind of captured all the emotions really well. So I'd say, I enjoyed the film. I think I've seen worse, and it's not as terrible as people kind of made it out to be. That's kind of my very quick review on the film.
Yeah, I found it really... I felt that Sushant Singh was conspicuously absent during the promotion of this movie. I haven't seen any interview of his or anything like that done. It just seems very, very weird that the marketing of this entire movie has been centered around Sara Ali Khan, which apparently seems to be working because the movie's doing quite well at the box office, it seems.
Yeah, so it's picked up, I think, over the weekend. And you're right. I think the film, he was good in the film, but, it wasn't something that was astonishingly brilliant. But I think the focus was the fact that if a debut actress can make such an impact in her debut film, then where will she go from now? I mean, I think if I was kind of other actresses, I'd be worried, because I think if she plays her cards right, she's going to do really well. And I think perhaps rightly they focused the strategy on Sara Ali Khan and less on kind of the Hindu-Muslim love story and stuff like that. And I think they marketed it well. I think because I think the film was stuck, wasn't it? It was supposed to release earlier this year. It wasn't supposed to release now.
Yeah.
And I think it was a wise move that they kind of centered the whole marketing strategy around that. And yeah, I mean, I don't blame Sushant for not promoting it, because he was in the film. The film was his. He was good. But I think the USP was definitely Sara Ali Khan. I think they only realized that as the film was nearing completion, that, oh my God, actually, she's really good. And that's probably why it turned out the way it did.
Yeah.
So, Jay, do you think you are Team Sarah or Team Janvi on this for 2018?
So I know this word "stan." I'm only getting my head around it now. I asked someone the other day on Twitter. I'm like, "What does "stan" mean?" And they're like, "God, how backward are you?" It's a tricky question, right? Because I'm a huge Sridevi fan. Like, even in the worst films, I thought Sridevi was shone. I think she was my favorite actress of all time. So when Janvi was making her debut, I think I went to watch Tara because of Janvi. But if you compare them in terms of, how articulate they are or how they performed, inevitably and perhaps unfairly, Janvi is always going to be compared to her mother. It's just one of those things. Sridevi was an icon. In Sara's case, what she has to her advantage is the fact that she's going to be compared to someone like Amrita Singh and Saif Ali Khan, who are, to be fair, good actors in their own right, but they were never iconic actors. So perhaps the pressure on her is less. But I think if you kind of remove their parents from the whole equation, pitting them against each other and putting them side to side, I think in terms of sheer appeal or sheer talent or sheer screen presence, I would say I'm Team Sara.
Interesting. No, but what you were saying about the Muslim boy, a Hindu girl has been done to death, I don't think it has, because it's a point I raise a lot of times with like Bollywood movies. It's never the boy that's a Muslim. It's always the girl that's the minority. And I think it's interesting that they flipped it around. And I think this morning, the director Abhishek Kapoor said on Twitter, "I plead with the Uttarakhand government to please lift the ban on my film Kedarnath. It's an attempt to bring peace and harmony and healing to the people of this country. Please don't deprive us of this opportunity." And he got killed by
I saw the comments.
Right-wing Hindu nationalists, I guess. They just like ripped him a new one. Like it's horrible. Like he got murdered on Twitter basically. So it is still, even though it's done to death, it's still something that's riling up people, and this topic still seems to be very, very controversial for a lot of people, and they just can't seem to accept it.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
And I think, in the focus, you haven't seen the film, right? So we don't have context. But I think you're right that he is a Muslim boy in the film and she's a Hindu girl. And there's this whole thing where obviously she is the daughter of a Hindu priest and he kind of feels like it's bad and that she's gone for a Muslim boy. But I think if you kind of look at the positive side, there's never a scene which depicts that, oh, you'll have to convert, should we get married and stuff like that. If anything, there's a scene in the film where he kind of turns around and says, this relationship is never going to work because people aren't going to accept it, which is actually kind of true. And I think there's never a scene which kind of paints, in fact, if anything, I would argue that it kind of potentially paints Hinduism in a bad light because the guy is so offended that she's gone for a Muslim boy. But I think if you take that aside, as a couple, there's never a scene in the film where he kind of imposes his religion onto her or anything controversial as such, because I think I read some of the comments on the back of what Abhishek Kapoor tweeted, and some of them said, oh, why don't you ever show a film that you have a Muslim girl smooching a Hindu guy. That's kind of one of the comments. And I did laugh because the irony here is, Asim, Sara Ali Khan is actually Muslim and Sushant Singh Rajput is Hindu.
Yeah.
So the fact that, like, sure, in the film, one's Hindu, one's Muslim, but in real life, it's actually a Muslim girl snogging a Hindu guy.
Yeah.
So the argument doesn't wash with me, and I feel like people are always up in arms with the whole Hindu-Muslim thing. And I won't lie to you, the film isn't about that. You know, not once do they kind of make a song and dance about how one side was right and how one side was wrong. It's actually essentially a love story set against the floods.
Right.
That's just a very small aspect of the story. So I sometimes feel like you call them the right-wing side, they kind of get up in arms about everything. And I think it's literally just making a song and dance about whatever's trending at the time and piggybacking on top of it.
Yeah, yeah. And also, like, the idea that there's not been why don't you make a movie about a Hindu guy and a Muslim girl? That's literally like 30 years of the last, like, the movies that have been made in the last 30 years. So I didn't even get that point, you know? So yeah. It's ridiculous. But I never find any points with people that are overtly nationalistic anyway. I don't understand their language they speak. Amrita, did you see the tweet?
They've been trying to litigate the whole thing. Like, right, there's been like a whole bunch of different up-and-coming politicians in like various North Indian states that have filed PILs saying that this promotes love jihad and blah, blah, blah. And it just... I'm sort of surprised that it got the release that it did. I think if it had starred bigger stars, maybe it might not have. So I think the reason why it came out is only because it stars, Sushant Singh Rajput, who, he's an up-and-coming talent, but he's definitely not up there. And he's got Sara Ali Khan, who has the big profile, yes, but it's definitely not opening films yet or anything. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I hope it does well for them. It seems like a smaller release, although it's a smaller release, but it seems like a big budget kind of major movie. It's not like like Jay, you and me were talking. It's not like a Badaiho where it's like a small independent that then grows word to mouth. So it's good that a movie like this without major stars is finding an audience, and it's something that we need, because otherwise, Bollywood becomes so fragmented that it's either the race threes or it's like Ayushmann Khurrana movies. There's nothing in the middle. So I think it's good that these kind of movies make some money. I think Sara is looking. She's looking like she has a bright future, but it's a weird movie she's starting in, because the next one that's coming out in 2 weeks' time or something like that is like Simmba, which the trailer dropped this week. Amrita, did you get a chance to see the Simmba trailer?
Yes, I did.
What were your thoughts about it?
Amrita has thoughts about this.
Oh my God. Is there like a word maybe in German for a state of being where you're so beyond disappointment and anger that you don't even know how to express it?
Geskalte Folge.
Yeah, something like that. Like fucking them up the ass and it is just... So it makes, I think I said this on Twitter, it just makes perfect sense that Simmba comes out this year, because in India we had the Me Too movement, and it's been instructive to see it play out in an Indian context, because it's it's like a bunch of women who are like, okay, so this is what happened to us, and then like a bunch of other women saying like, oh, like here's how we can support you, and like we believe you, and we're so happy that you came out the other side. And then you have about 5 million men who will descend on every single one of those threads and be like, what? I can't believe it. Like, you should have just punched him in the face. Why didn't you punch him in the face? If it was me, I would have punched him in the face. I would have castrated him, and I would have boiled him alive. And I'm just like, why don't you keep your violent fantasies in your head where they belong, instead of like just coming and saying these stupid things that are like just not, it's not reality, you know, it's just like stuff that they have seen in the films and they're like, हाँ ऐसा ही होना चाहिए, you know, like every time you talk to somebody about like, oh, how do we combat like the cases of rape that are happening in India, because India is incredibly violent towards its women. So, and I think like even the people who are like super nationalistic can agree, you know, like they might stand there and say that, oh no, we worship women, but they also can understand that it is violent towards its women. But their solution is always like, we will hang all the rapists. And I'm like, that is not a solution.
And all of those fantasies get manifested in the world of Rohit Shetty.
Exactly. So I knew that it was going to be like a cheap knockoff of a South Indian film, right? Because that's what Rohit Shetty does with his shitty movies. And I'm like, fine, all right. Like I am ready for. I have seen the Golmaal movies. I have even laughed at the Golmaal movies. I'm like, okay, fine. I will live with this. I didn't enjoy Simmba. I didn't enjoy Simmba because I don't enjoy Ajay Devgan.
Singham, you mean?
Singham. I was just like, have you already seen the film?
Right.
Totally understandable that you're switching names, but it is Singham.
Yes, Singham. So that was another thing, like, you know, like when they showed Singham in the beginning of the trailer, I was like, oh, acha, theek hai. So this is actually a continuity thing, like Rohit Shetty, who makes the movies that Rohit Shetty makes, suddenly is like, nahi, isme continuity hoga.
Yeah, I've just coined the phrase the shitty-verse.
I was just like, okay. But then at the end of the trailer, they make it very clear that Ajay Devgan actually has a role to play in the movie. Like he actually comes into it. And I'm like, but if that's your big, like, you know, special appearance, why would you give it away in the trailer? I don't understand. Like, do you think Ranveer can't open a film by himself? Like he needs Ajay Devgan in there? Like, is that what you're trying to tell me? Anyway. That aside, like this whole thing about like, oh, you know, he's basically Chulbul Pandey, but he is motivated by the rape of his Muh Boli Behan instead of his father's death or his mother's death.
Yeah, I think Sujoy, man, what did you think of the trailer, by the way?
I think the trailer didn't sell the movie for me. I avoid the South Indian movies, like this genre of massy hero will save the world by cutting everyone up kind of movies. I just completely avoid them on whenever they come in their dubbed form on Setmax and stuff. And Simmba just falls into that template, and I'm totally not interested in that. But kind of the like, I don't see Sara Ali Khan either playing an important role in this movie, and maybe, I don't know, if the whole song of Aankh Mare comes out on YouTube a few weeks later, I don't see the point of going to the theater to watch Simmba.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me because, I mean, I don't like Rohit Shetty's movies. I've not liked any of them except Singham, but Singham was fine at that time because there was this back and forth between Prakash Raj and Ajay Devgan, which I really, really enjoyed. I thought that one-upmanship was really good. The thing is with Simmba, like, I like Ranveer Singh, but he hasn't made a movie I've liked since Ladies versus Ricky Bell. So it's been like almost like 8-10 years that he's just been making movies that do not work for me at all. And I just don't understand why. And he's like so joyful in the movies he's doing, and they're like terrible movies. I don't like them. And even this one, there's like nothing new in it. And what I also, it's like Amrita was saying, it's a bit of Dabang, it's a bit of, you know, that corrupt cop that then sees the rights. It's also a bit of Shahin Shah, even if you go back, you know.
Yeah.
I get offended by this idea of, if we just let cops do whatever cops want to do, then everything will be fine. There's a line that, you know, if we can shoot rapists, women will be safe. And that is just so absurd to me. If you let cops shoot people, if you let mob justice have justice, innocent people will be shot and hanged. That's the only thing that will happen. People will get accused of doing shit that they haven't done. Mob justice will take over, which is already happening all over India. I heard this horrible story about some people from Africa that people barged into their house and started beating them up because there was a rumor on WhatsApp that somebody had eaten kids. Like, imagine, like, these are the people, and then Rohit Shetty is then perpetuating this idea of mob justice and, like, police brutality, which, again, Singham was like 8 years ago, you know? We weren't in the time that we're in now, you know? Like, when mobs and right-wing nationalists and all these kind of things are like on such a peak, perpetuating these ideas, then it becomes harmful. And it annoys me that then Stan Twitter, which only wants to hype up Ranveer Singh's abs and Sara Ali Khan's, you know, nazakat and like adaएं, forgets about all of the other shit that this movie is doing. And I also hate the fact that Rohit Shetty is billed as the biggest action director in India because his action is terrible. He makes terrible action movies. This trailer pissed me off so badly. And then, beside all of that, this whole idea of rape revenge, I do not want to see a movie like that. I'm done with it. I saw enough of them in the 80s, you know. It has no consequence on the male actor. It only is there to justify his bloodlust and killing a bunch of people. So this idea that this movie is going to be about women empowerment, I hope then they spend at least like 40 minutes about, you know, what actually happened to the women that gets raped, you know? At least that's an idea worth exploring, but that's not something that we can expect from a Rohit Shetty movie. I'm really pissed off about Simmba, and really, I'm so annoyed with it. The only cool thing I do find, and that this is kind of transitioning to Aankh Mare, which also annoyed me. Because I love the original Aankh Mare, and I think this remake is not a patch on it. It's not even the fact that I'm against remakes or anything like that. I just do not think this is a good remake. And the only good part is the appearance of Arshad Varsi for like 10 seconds. But what I do like is that Rohit Shetty's movies do not... they treat their women quite well, I must say. Like, the roles for women are actually quite good in his movies. Like, I'm thinking of Bebo in Golmaal 2, and also Chennai Express with Deepika, which was actually probably the best role ever in a Rohit Shetty movie for a female. And what I also like is, like, when you look at Aankh Mare, the way Sara Ali Khan is dressed, it's kind of a very cute, boyish kind of athletic wear she's wearing, you know? She's not wearing like a skin-tight kind of sexy dress or anything like that. It's just like boyishly cute, and I like that. It also reminded me of how Bebo was dressed in Golmaal 2. That because he has this idea about family audiences, he never makes the women look... you know, like Sajid Khan would, for example, you know, that kind of thing. And I do appreciate that in Aankh Mare.
I just want to talk about the costume thing. That just reminded me of something that I've been thinking for a while now. And I think the credit goes to Sonam, because like when this whole like second generation of Bollywood women that have come out and started acting, you know, whether it's Sonam or Alia or Sara or Janvi and all those people. Well, Janvi dresses very filmy, but I think Sonam in particular was like very clear, like when she came out onto the screen, like, of course she said it in her very Sonam way, where she was like, "Ooh, so tacky, all these women." But what she basically said was true, in that like women were just walking around wearing like bikini tops with their saris, and they called it a look. And that was actually Manish Malhotra. Let's put the blame where it belongs. And Sonam came on the scene and she was like, "No, like that's not how I'm going to dress. I'm going to dress the way I want to dress. And I think like I have a brand and I'm going to dress according to that." And I think Alia did that too, like that Tama Tama remake. The original had like Madhuri wearing those skyscraper heels and like
She was wearing that tight little leather dress, and she was dancing. And Alia was wearing like very comfy shoes, very comfy outfit, and she was just like dancing up a storm. And that's how you see it again with like Sara in Aankh Mare, which again I also noticed, Hassan. Like it was like the first thing that I noticed, because in the original, what's her name? The woman with that's dancing with Arshad Wasi in Aankh Mare.
Wasn't it Simran?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think even Arshad Warsi would know her name, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it was Simran, that actress.
Was it Simran? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Was it Tere Mere Sapne?
Yeah, Tere Mere Sapne.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like Simran was wearing that little red dress, right? Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah.
That mini dress, that little red mini dress. And that's not what Sara's dress does at all. And it's really like, and like Ranveer probably shows more skin than Sara does, you know?
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Wasn't Ranveer also a better dancer than he is in this? Like, I don't know if it's the steroids or like what's going on or like too much muscles, but he almost feels like he's dancing like Salman Khan in this.
Yeah, you know, actually, I thought that. So, you know, when I saw the Aankh Mare video, the song was more about Sara and Arshad than heck even Karan Johar than Ranveer. Like Ranveer just fades into the background.
Yeah.
The song actually isn't like the focus should be on him because it's after his character, but he is the one that stood out the least for me in the song, at least.
Yeah. It's funny that the whole idea, like all of the Simmba promotion and marketing, is based on special appearances. it's really weird.
By
like,
Tushar Kapoor.
Yeah, I was gonna say Sujoy's favorite Tushar Kapoor is in it too, right? Were you happy, Sujoy, when he showed up? I know that's your favorite part, right?
I was pleasantly surprised, to be honest, because I'm not a big fan of the Golmaal series at all, but I like my memory of Golmaal is pretty much the short clips of Tushar Kapoor hee-ho-ha doing all of that in Golmaal, and I was pleasantly surprised how he incorporated that bit of Tushar Kapoor into this song, and absolutely delighted to see the big wide smile of Arshad Warsi, and he's probably the only one who's like, yes, I've got my mojo back, and he's dancing his ass off. Like in comparison, if you see like Kunal Khemu dancing next to him, he's like half dead and just moving around. Yeah.
I thought Ranveer had learned his lesson after appearing with Govinda on screen. Like, if you step into an arena with like another person who specializes in that particular arena, like, you need to be really good. You need to step up your game 110% if you want to even like be seen. Because Ranveer and Arjun just sort of disappeared when Govinda was on screen in Gunde, was it?
Kill Dil.
No, Kill Dil. Right. And that's what happens here too. Like Arshad shows up and everybody's like, yay! And then like Ranveer shows up and everybody's like, who?
Yeah. So. Yeah, I do feel like I love Arshad Warsi, and I feel like he feels so starved for love. You know, like if you, he was like on Twitter, he was like so happy. He was like, "Oh, thank you," and this and that for all the love I received. I was like, poor guy. Like I really think we didn't treat him right. You know, he didn't get like the career he should have gotten, because I think he's great. Like he's been great in so many roles. If people haven't seen Seher, they should watch Seher. He's amazing in it. Arshad Warsi doesn't get enough love, unfortunately. And he was great. He dances so well in those like 3 shots. So, Sujoy, man, which version do you actually prefer? Do you prefer the Mika Singh version or the Kumar Sanu?
No, definitely Kumar Sanu. Come on. But I actually don't mind the Mika Singh version either, even though I'm not that a big fan of Mika. I don't like his nasal tone at all, but even then I don't really mind it.
Yeah, I don't know why they picked it for this song, which is kind of like a high energy kind of song, but I just don't think Mika's voice suited it at all. Like, it didn't work for me.
Do you know what it is? I mean, I'm a fan of the original, and like I think I have a huge problem with these remakes anyway. But annoyingly, when I actually heard this one, it's just catchy. It's really catchy. And I think anything that kind of plays on my nostalgia, I think Joe knows, right? I think he kind of knows. And when you play on people's nostalgia, the song will be a hit anyway. And I think that's what he's tried to do with this. So they kind of introduced the element of the Golmaal nostalgia. And there's kind of got the Kumar Sanu and the Arshad Warsi and Tushar Kapoor. So he's played on people's nostalgia. So I like the song. The picturization, I'm not so sure of. I quite like the song. It's catchy. I played it about 4 or 5 times yesterday, so that's always a good sign for them.
Yeah. It's also just the sound design is so much better. Like, I would love to just put on the old version again because it's actually a better song, but the sound design is so bad, It's like scruffy, like stereo and stuff like that. So it's kind of a shame. I gotta say, like, after Arshad Warsi, Karan Johar was my favorite appearance in this song.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because this is what I mean. I think, Karan Johar has his annoyance. He can be really annoying, but he's a smart man. I think he really knows how to market his stuff because they did this with Tamma Tamma as well. So do you remember in Tamma Tamma, in one of the lines, it's that old guy from the radio who used to kind of...
Amin Sayani.
Yeah. And they introduced him in the song, and I was just like, this is just total nostalgia. And I think he's kind of tried to do that this time as well. And it's a shame that we didn't see more of Karan Johar actually dancing in the song, because I would have preferred to see him more than...
But nobody actually winks in the song Aakh Mare.
I did see your tweet.
Nobody mares the Ankh?
No.
Oh, that's messed up.
That's fake news.
Cool. Hey, did Amrita, did you watch 2.0 or did you not watch it?
Hell no.
Okay. Smart girl.
Like poor Beth, she wanted to go see a Bollywood movie because she hadn't had one release for a very long time. And she was like, she had read what Sujoy had to say and everything. And she was like, oh, but, I'm going to go see it anyway, because I haven't seen one in such a long time. And I enjoyed, the first one. Maybe this will be fine. And she literally walked out, halfway through the movie because she was
smart.
like, oh, my God, it's so terrible.
Yeah. So, Jay, you didn't watch it either, right?
I actually didn't. I saw, I think, yours and Sujoy's tweets, and I actually suggested to my friend, because we were bored one night, so I'm like, do you want to go see 2.0? So he literally said, he goes, even if you hold me at gunpoint, he goes, I'd rather dress up as a crow and run around the cinema if you kind of want to watch the film. So I think that kind of answered my question. I wasn't going to go in it alone. So
yeah. Sujay, you want to talk quickly about it? I know we're running a bit long, but I also feel that the conversation has moved on, but it's just making so much money, this movie, right?
Good for them. Well, it's India's most expensive movie, so, good for all the distributors and people who believed in this and made this project come into fruition after so many years in production. Shankar's basic idea of, again, vigilante revenge drama of people that have done wrong to them and them getting, their deserved, karma coming to bite in their ass in the form of a villain. It's a very old trope, and he's kind of done that before, and he continues to make movies on that. We've seen that in Indian and Onion and and now in Robot 2.0. And I think that sort of idea has fallen flat this time. And even the inventiveness of the first movie and its many choreographed scenes and set pieces with lots of... You can see the imaginativeness in the storyboarding process of how the scenes were set. That was kind of lacking, and I just couldn't... the whole point of watching 2.0 on the big screen is the spectacle, and even the spectacle didn't fall correctly into place. And probably that's why I was all on board to enjoy it to the fullest extent, and you were watching next to me, and I was quite excited to see Akshay Kumar and Rajnikant share screen together, but it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, for me it was terrible. I'm going to be short about it because I don't... clearly I'm not part of the fandom and this movie is not made for me. I don't understand the references. And I think last time when we were talking about the trailer, when Sunny was on too, I was saying that for me Rajnikant movies are 1/3 references I don't understand, 1/3 a love relationship that's way too young and beyond creepy, and then 1/3 is just nonsense and insanity. So that's exactly what 2.0 delivers to me. It's not for me, and I've made the decision I'm never going to watch a Rajnikant movie again. And it's not even like, it's like I always felt that, I don't know enough about South Indian cinema just because of, not because of any sort of bias, but I just didn't ever have access to them as much, And I used to love Rajnikant back in the 80s when he was in Hindi movies. So I wanted to kind of delve in now that we are getting these movies. They're getting a big release. They're making a lot of noise. I'm reading a lot of, Bharadwaj Rangan articles which are hyping it up. So I'm like, okay, maybe I should watch this. Like, really smart people think this is good. And I've watched like 5 or 6 movies of him, of the recent ones, and I've not liked any of them. So it's just not for me, I'm glad people enjoy it, but I can't even evaluate if 2.0 is better than Endiran or not. I don't get it. I don't understand anything of this fandom. It's not for me. So I didn't like this movie at all. I didn't understand that Chiti was a good guy, because he looks like a rapist to me. He looks like Pepe Le Pew. And I have to say, you guys haven't seen it, but there's this thing that he does, Rajnikant, where he flaps like a bird and puts his tongue out, which I think is the most lame and uncool thing I have seen any actor do in the last, 2 decades at least. It is just uncool. He does like a flappy thing and then he puts his bird out like he's dead. And he keeps doing it. He does it like 7-8 times. It's like his punch movement or something like that. And I don't know, I think people like that or think it's cool, but it honestly is the most lame thing I've ever seen in my life. That's my thoughts on 2.0. That's it. I don't want to waste more time on it, to be honest. I didn't like this movie at all.